So, this story kicks off with a guy named Eddie Palmer. He's just gotten out of prison after doing 12 years, and now he's headed back to his small hometown in Louisiana. First thing that happens, his grandma, Vivian, wraps him up in this big, warm hug the second he walks through the door. You can tell right away, she's really happy to have him home. "Good Lord, look at you," she says with this soft smile. "Well, get on in here." And Eddie's like, "How you been, Grandma?" Her reply's simple, "Well, I'm living." Turns out, she thought he was going to get in earlier, but the bus ran late. She would have picked him up, but they don't let her drive anymore. Still, she made sure his old room was ready. Later, Eddie heads into that room, and it's like stepping back in time. Everything's just the way he remembers it. When he glances out the window, he spots the neighbors, a woman named Shelley and her little boy, Sam. And right away, you can tell they've got it rough. Vivian doesn't sugarcoat it either. She tells Eddie straight. If it weren't for that sweet kid Sam, she would have kicked Shelley and her no-good boyfriend out of the trailer park ages ago. They've been nothing but trouble. That night, over dinner, Vivian gives Eddie a bit of that gentle, grandmotherly wisdom. She tells him he needs to find a job, start piecing his life back together. She knows how towns like this work. Second chances are hard to come by. And if he lets himself sink into self-pity, well, it's only going to drag him down further. Eddie hears her loud and clear. He knows she's right. So the very next day, he heads out, trying to find work. But it hits him fast. Landing a job when you got a record? Not easy at all. Later that evening, Eddie ends up at the local bar, the kind of place where time stands still and everyone knows everyone. He runs into some old friends, and for a while, it feels like the years haven't changed much. They're laughing, swapping stories from way back, remembering when life was a little simpler. One of his buddies, Daryl, brings up something Eddie hadn't heard. Apparently, Eddie's legendary football touchdown record held up for years, only recently broken by Daryl's own son. Daryl beams with pride as he says it, and you can tell he still holds Eddie's past in high regard. Then there's Coles, an old friend too. Only now, he's the town sheriff. He comes up, gives Eddie a warm handshake, and tells him he hopes things turn around, that he can rebuild. There's a genuine tone in his voice, but there's also a quiet warning under it. As the night rolls on, Shelley strolls into the bar. She's got that wild energy about her, flirty, bold, and loud enough to turn heads. She walks right up to Eddie and says, "I want my nails done and my ass waxed." "What do you think I want, huh?" "Give me a gym and Coke." Then she pauses, looking him over. "You're Vivian's grandson, ain't you?" And when Eddie doesn't say much, she leans in, eyes narrowing. "What's the matter, handsome? You can't talk." The next morning, Eddie steps outside early, still heavy from the drinks the night before. Vivian sees him, and there's that look, a mix of worry and disappointment. She doesn't say anything right then, but it's written all over her face. She's scared those old habits might come creeping back. By 10 o'clock, she's waking him up. They're going to church, and they're bringing Sam along too. At church, it's obvious the town hasn't forgotten what Eddie did. People glance over their shoulders, lean in to whisper. There's judgment in the air, quiet but sharp. In a small town, forgiveness always seems to move slower than gossip ever does. Even Sam feels it. He doesn't quite blend in with the other kids. There's this awkward tension, like he's on the outside looking in. Someone leans over to Eddie and says, "Must be strange being back here, huh?" And Eddie just says, "Ain't kidding." Yeah, well, not much has changed. Still all about church and football. Another guy chimes in, "Hey man, they did open new coffee shop though." Then someone else, the chief, walks up. "Eddie, heard you got out early." Eddie replies, "Yes, sir." The chief gives a nod and says flatly, "Well, you make sure to keep yourself in check. I would hate to have to put you back inside." So after the church service ends, Eddie and Vivian hang around a bit, chatting with some familiar faces. That small town kind of thing where everyone wants to catch up, even if just for a minute. While that's going on, Daryl notices something about Sam. The kid doesn't really act like the other boys. There's a softness, a way he carries himself that stands out. More feminine. When they get back home, Vivian doesn't say anything about it. She just brings Sam into the kitchen and offers him something to eat. She's gentle with him, kind. You can tell she really cares, not because she has to, but because it's who she is. But for Eddie, even being out of prison doesn't feel like freedom yet. There's a heaviness in him, like the weight of his past is still sitting on his back. The next morning, Vivian hands him a short shopping list and a little money. She doesn't make a big deal out of it, but for Eddie, it stings a bit. That feeling of needing help, especially from his grandma, hits a sore spot. On his way out, he sees Shelley driving off with her boyfriend. No sign of Sam. At the grocery store, Eddie spots a help wanted sign in the window. For a second, he thinks maybe this is it. Maybe things are turning around. But when he asks about it, the guy behind the counter gives him a shrug. I filled that position this morning. He adds, hey, Eddie, how have you been? Okay. The guy gives a sheepish smile. Just forgot to take the sign down. Good to see you. You too. I'm sorry. I thought that they were still hiring. It's fine. Just like that, it's clear. The sign is still up, but the job's gone. Or maybe it was never available to someone like him in the first place. When Eddie gets back home, he walks into a quiet moment. Sam is sitting beside Vivian, gently brushing her hair while she rests on the couch. Vivian stirs and tells Eddie that Sam's going to be staying with them for a while. Shelley's taken off again. Later, Eddie finds Sam playing with dolls and tells him straight out, dolls aren't for boys. But Sam doesn't back down. He just calmly says, I like what I like. And something about that quiet confidence, it lands with Eddie. He doesn't say anything more, but you can see it left an impression. During dinner, Vivian asks Eddie if he's found a job yet. He bristles at the question, the pressure, the expectation. The air goes tense. And then Vivian accuses him of stealing money. After everything that happened at dinner, Eddie's pissed off, frustrated. He wants to prove he's not just some ex-con who'll fall right back into old habits. So when he sees a notice about a janitor position at the local school, he decides he's going for it. The next morning, he shows up at the school ready for an interview. He sits down with Mr. Sibbs and Principal Forbes, doing his best to explain himself. He tells them he was a model prisoner during those 13 years, that he's not the same man who went in. But you can tell they're still unsure. Then something shifts. They find out Eddie used to be a football player, a talented one, and that he was once a scholar at the University of Louisiana. That detail seems to catch their attention. Football scholarship to LSU. MHM, Palmer, you related to Vivian Palmer? Yes, sir. That's my grandmother. Oh, well, she's a respectable member of our congregation. Yes, sir. I attended with her last Sunday. Beautiful sermon. Forbes nods, thoughtful. All right, I tell you what, I'm a big fan of second chances. So, let me run all this by the school board and see if I can pull some strings and make something happen. Thank you. That small glimmer of hope. It's not much, but to Eddie, it means everything. That night, while they're having dinner, Sam quietly tells Vivian she was wrong for accusing Eddie of stealing. It's simple, but it hits home. And not long after that, the phone rings. It's the school. Eddie's been hired as the janitor. It's just a job, nothing fancy, but to him, it feels massive. Turns out, Sam goes to the same school. And honestly, it's a little easier for him there. He connects more naturally with the girls than the boys. His teacher, Maggie Hayes, notices. She's kind, protective, someone who genuinely looks out for him. But not everyone's as understanding. So folks in town start talking, whispering about how maybe Vivian should call Child Protective Services. Maybe Sam needs to be in foster care. Vivian doesn't take it lightly. To her, love is what makes a family, not blood. It's just shameful the way his mama carries on. I can't believe the state hasn't taken him away already. Oh, he ain't no trouble. Document. Now shush. I'm telling you, you can't keep that boy. Some people just have too much to say. Who has too much to say? Stop listening to our adult conversation, Sam. But Miss Vivian, I'm right here. Don't mean you have to listen. One morning, Eddie walks into the living room and finds Sam curled up in front of the TV, watching fairy princess cartoons and quietly playing with dolls. Sam glances up and explains, Vivian's still asleep. Something about the way he says it. Eddie just feels that something's off. He heads to Vivian's room to check. And sure enough, she's still there. Peaceful. Still. But she's gone. She passed away in her sleep. The funeral happens not long after. And a lot of people from the town show up to pay their respects. Vivian had her place in that community. She was loved. But for Eddie and Sam, the loss cuts deep. It's not just about losing a person, it's losing the anchor that held their little world together. Back at work, Eddie's boss pulls him aside and tells him to take the next day off. Go grieve, he says. Eddie nods, grateful. At home that evening, Sam sits silently with Vivian's old makeup bag in his lap, slowly opening it, looking through the things she used to use, missing her in the quietest, deepest way. That night, Eddie doesn't know what to do with himself. The grief, the weight of everything, it pushes him to the bar. He drinks more than he should, comes home late. When he walks in, Sam's already asleep on the couch. The next morning, Eddie wakes him. His voice is low, serious. Pack your things. Sam doesn't understand. He looks scared, confused. But he listens. He trusts Eddie. They head to the police station. Inside, Eddie talks to his old friend Coles. Shelley's been gone 2 weeks now. Eddie says, no calls. No sign of her. Coles raises an eyebrow. How long's she been gone this time? About 2 weeks. And Vivian had him this whole time? Of course she did. Coles shakes his head. I swear this woman. Then comes the hard part. Coles tells Eddie that Child Protective Services will have to step in, that Sam will be taken to an orphanage. As Eddie walks out of the station, he glances back and sees Sam through the window. The kid is just standing there, staring at him. His face, heartbroken, completely lost. And Eddie freezes. He can't do it. He can't leave him like that. So he turns around, and he brings Sam back home. Because sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules. From that moment, Eddie decides to take responsibility for Sam. Sam shows how independent he is by getting ready for school by himself and catching the bus on time. One afternoon, Maggie stops by to check in on Sam, just to see how things are going at home. Eddie's nervous about it, even if he tries not to show it. He doesn't exactly know how he's doing as a guardian, but he's trying. Maggie, though, is kind. She doesn't come in with judgment. Before she leaves, she hands Eddie her number, just in case he ever needs help. That night, Eddie keeps calling Shelley. Still nothing. No answer. No reply. She's just gone. He never meant to be in this role, to be someone's caretaker, but the longer Sam stays, the more Eddie feels that quiet sense of duty. Like maybe, just maybe, this was something he was meant to do. And Sam, he never lets go of his dolls. One evening, while they're winding down, Sam asks Eddie a question that hits harder than he expects. Do you know when my mom's coming back? Eddie looks at him for a long second, then says softly, no. I wish I did. Sam nods slowly. I sometimes get mad at my mom for leaving. Do you ever get mad at yours? I barely knew the woman. Later that night, after Sam's gone to bed, Eddie finds himself pulling out an old family scrapbook. It's full of old clippings, newspaper articles, photos, memories from a life that feels like it belonged to someone else. Back when he was that small-town football hero. It's all there, frozen in time. But those days are gone. The next morning, he drives Sam to school. On the ride, Sam's practically glowing. He says he loves princess cartoons more than anything in the world. Then he proudly holds up his lunchbox, pink, covered in princesses, and tells Eddie it was something his mom bought on sale once. Later on, Lucille, Cole's wife, asks Eddie if Sam can come over and play with her daughter, Emily. She says Sam thinks of Eddie like a dad now and wanted to make sure it was okay. It's called a play date, she explains. They would come right over to our house so that they could play. And then you could just pick him up, say around 5. Yeah, sure. Lucille smiles. Yeah. Hey guys, tell you, let's do it. At 5 o'clock, Eddie heads over to pick Sam up. Lucille invites him in. They're in the middle of a toy tea party. It's a little awkward for Eddie, but he plays along. He's polite. Watch Sam pour imaginary tea and laugh with Emily. And once again, Eddie notices how different Sam is from most boys. But he keeps his thoughts to himself. That evening, he takes Sam to a football game. They sit together in the stands, and Eddie starts talking, telling stories about who he used to be, about those Friday night lights and the noise of the crowd. Maggie's there too. She walks over, says they should all go bowling together sometime. And just as things start to feel somewhat normal, Daryl walks up and leans in close. How the hell did you get stuck babysitting? Then he adds, hey, don't get mixed up with Shelley, man. Trust me on that. Keep your dicks as far away from that one as possible. During the football game, Eddie sits quietly for a while, watching the new star on the field, the one who broke his old record. You can see it in his face, that mix of pride and nostalgia. At one point, he leans over to Daryl and asks if he knows what happened to the wrestlers, the guys who were involved in his past mistakes. But Daryl waves it off. He tells Eddie to forget about those people. He still believes Eddie got a raw deal, that he never should have been locked up in the first place. Later, while they're still at the game, Sam starts mimicking the cheerleaders, copying their dance moves without a care in the world. Eddie watches him, doesn't say a thing, just lets him be. After dropping Sam off at home, Eddie heads back to the bar. Daryl's there too, drunk, loud, and causing a scene. Mr. Sibbs, the bar owner, doesn't tolerate it for long. He kicks them both out. Eddie ends up helping Daryl stumble out, making sure he gets home in one piece. The next morning, Sam bounces into the room, waking Eddie up with a burst of excitement. It's bowling day. They're going out with Maggie. And it turns out, Sam has a blast. While he plays, Eddie and Maggie sit and talk. Eddie opens up a little, tells her he actually went to college for a year before everything fell apart. Maggie shares a bit too, about her own struggles, a failed marriage, and how she moved back home to be closer to family. And slowly, you start to see a shift. Eddie's not just figuring things out. He's actually growing into this new role. He's more confident now, more settled in the idea of being Sam's guardian. At work, he goes to Mr. Sibbs and apologizes for Daryl's behavior the other night. Meanwhile, back at school, Principal Forbes checks in with Sam to make sure he's feeling okay and safe at home. As part of his parole, Eddie still has to report to the police station regularly. One day, Sam asks why. Eddie pauses, then tells him the truth. Years ago, he tried to steal money that didn't belong to him, and he paid the price for that mistake. That honesty? It means a lot. It shows just how much Eddie wants to be a better role model. And then Sam shares something too, a quiet confession. He once stole a toy from another kid at school, and now he feels really guilty about it. Eddie doesn't scold him. He just listens, because deep down, he's starting to feel something he hasn't felt in a long time. Purpose. For once, Eddie feels needed, and that gives him the strength to keep going. For the first time, Eddie has something and someone to fight for. The next morning, Eddie and Sam make breakfast together. When Sam grabs for only biscuits, Eddie gently tells him no, it's not healthy. Later that day, Sam takes Eddie's advice to heart. He returns the stolen toy to its rightful owner. Not long after, Sam's birthday party rolls around. Maggie and Emily come by to celebrate, warm and cheerful. Eddie has a surprise gift for Sam, a ukulele. Sam's thrilled, even though he's not all that into music. It's the thought that counts. While the kids are playing, Maggie quietly asks Eddie about his mother. Eddie tells her that his mom ran off when he was just 5. And after that, Vivian stepped in and raised him like her own. After hearing that, Maggie offers to help Eddie go through the old mail still piled up around the house. That's when they find it, a letter from a lawyer asking Eddie to get in touch regarding Vivian's will. Turns out, Vivian left her house and everything in it to the church. This creates a new obstacle for Eddie, increasing his uncertainty about the future. Eddie's stunned by the news about the will. He hadn't expected that. Once the house is sold, he'll only have 30 days to move out. The clock's ticking, and he doesn't have a plan yet. Meanwhile, at school, Sam starts getting picked on by some of his classmates. They tease him because he looks and acts different. But when Eddie sees what's happening, he doesn't hesitate. He steps in right away, and his presence alone is enough to scare the bullies off. They back down fast. Later that day at home, Sam tells Eddie he wants to write a letter to the Fairy Princess show. He says, Penelope the princess said if you write their show a letter, you could draw on their club. They even give you a certificate. Then, so earnestly, he asks, can you wrap me one? Eddie tries to soften the blow, gently saying, look, there's things in this world you can be, and there's things that you can't. Then he asks, okay, how many boys do you see on that show? Sam answers honestly, none. Eddie's trying to protect him, maybe, or try to guide him, but Sam doesn't budge. He doesn't see anything wrong with what he wants, and he stays firm. At the store a few days later, Sam picks out a princess costume for Halloween with so much excitement. Again, Eddie tries to explain that maybe it's not a good idea, but Sam's mind is made up. Then, Out of nowhere, an older woman in the store turns to Eddie and throws words at him like a slap in the face. "You still looking after this boy?" she says. "You got no right looking after any child. You ain't nothing but a criminal." Eddie doesn't respond, just says, "Come on, Sam." But Sam turns around and fires back without blinking. "You know what? Palmer's been seeing that man, and he's been doing good, so you can mind your own ass." That moment hits Eddie hard. It's simple, but it says everything. Sam believes in him, truly believes he's a good man. And in that moment, Eddie starts to believe it too. Later, in class, Sam tells his teacher he's going to dress up as Princess Penelope for the Halloween party. Eddie still tries to convince him otherwise, but nothing works. And eventually, he lets it go. He accepts Sam's decision. At the party, the other kids start teasing him. They call him Samantha and laugh. But then the classroom door opens. The teacher walks in dressed as Mr. Forbes, a full role reversal, and the whole room shifts. It's a small act, but it says everything about acceptance. That night, Maggie invites Eddie and Sam over for dinner. Sam's in good spirits, happy, laughing, enjoying sweets like everything's perfect. And then, after a pause, Maggie finally works up the courage to ask Eddie about his time in prison. It's not easy for him, but slowly he starts to share. He tells her how he used to be a star football player at university, and how one injury changed everything. The doctors told him he'd never play again. He fell into a deep depression, went back home, started living recklessly. There was a boy in the group he hung out with who always talked about how his dad had cash in a safe. One day, they decided to rob the house. But things went wrong. The dad came home early. Eddie panicked and made the worst mistake of his life. Later that night, Sam falls asleep. Maggie tells Eddie he should stay the night. The next day, after school, Emily invites Sam over again. He lights up, that kind of happiness that doesn't need words. During a break in the day, Eddie sits at the computer, searching for how to become Sam's legal guardian. Later, he visits Maggie's class and asks her for help. He wants to donate Vivian's things to charity. But suddenly, Sam runs into the classroom, crying. Daryl had hurt him. Eddie's face changes in an instant. He's furious. Maggie tries to stop him, but it's no use. Eddie storms out of the school and heads straight for the bar. He finds Daryl there. And when Daryl calls Sam abnormal, that one word, Eddie snaps. He attacks. The anger, the hurt, everything he's been holding down, it explodes. Other men in the bar have to pull Eddie off him. Eddie's violent reaction shows how his old anger still lingers beneath the surface. Other men have to pull Eddie away. After the fight, Eddie's still burning with rage. And it doesn't stop at Daryl. He ends up threatening Coles too, the police officer who stood by all this time and never did anything for the little boy who needed help. When Eddie finally gets back home, Maggie takes one look at him and knows. She sees the bruised knuckles, the storm still on his face. She puts it all together. She doesn't raise her voice, doesn't get angry, just looks at him and says, "Violence is never the answer." There's so much disappointment in her eyes. She thought Eddie had changed, and now she's not so sure. Without another word, she leaves. The next morning, Eddie sits down with Sam. He keeps his voice gentle, steady. He tells Sam that none of what happened is his fault. Daryl is just a bad person, plain and simple. Wanting to lift his spirits, Eddie does something different this time. He helps Sam write that letter to the Fairy Princess show. It's the first time he's really shown support for Sam's dream. And it matters. Eddie reads what they've got so far. "Dear Penelope's Flying Princess Club." Did I get that right? Sam nods. Yeah. Eddie continues. "My name is Sam, and I would very much like to be a member." Sam chimes in quickly. "Make sure you tell them how much I love their show and watch it every day." And Eddie smiles and adds, "I'll watch your show, and I love it more." But then, a knock at the door. Standing there is Shelley. She looks terrible. Sick, strung out like life's been hard, and it's only gotten harder. And she says she's there to take her son back. Sam is devastated. He clings to Eddie, tears in his eyes. He doesn't want to go. Eddie kneels down and promises him that he can visit anytime. Sam wraps his arms around him, holding tight, like he never wants to let go. And Eddie, he feels crushed, completely wrecked. But deep down, he knows Sam belongs with his mother. Then Shelley notices the ukulele sitting nearby. She freezes. It hits her. She missed her son's birthday. She forgot. Quickly, she covers it up. She lies. So she got him a gift, too. Eddie doesn't say anything. He just throws himself back into work, doing whatever he can to stop feeling so empty. Later on, Eddie catches up with Maggie and tells her that Shelley has come back. But the conversation doesn't go the way he hoped. There's tension between them, like something's shifted. It's not a fight exactly, just one of those talks that leaves you feeling more alone than before. That night, Eddie walks into a bar, needing a place to think. But when he gets there, he doesn't drink. He just sits, quiet, staring at the glass he never orders. The next morning, he finds Sam sitting on the porch, looking heartbroken. Sam tells him that Jerry, Shelley's boyfriend, threw away his lunchbox and called him a disgrace. Eddie listens, gently comforts him, and tells him to grab his bag. He drives him to school, keeping his voice calm even though he's boiling inside. On the way, Sam says something else. That soon, he and his mom are moving in with Jerry. And when that happens, Sam will have to change schools. All day, that sits heavy in Eddie's mind. He watches Jerry, notices the way he carries himself, the way he talks. And it becomes clear Jerry is no better than Shelley, maybe even worse. Then, later that same day, the news hits. Hard. Child Protective Services has taken Sam. Shelley is crying when she tells Eddie what happened. She's panicked, scared, and suddenly unsure of everything. Eddie doesn't waste time. He rushes to the station. An officer there tells him the situation. A court hearing will decide whether Sam goes back to Shelley or gets placed in an orphanage. That evening, Eddie shows up at Shelley's trailer. He's desperate. He pleads with her to give him custody of Sam. But Shelley doesn't take it well. She gets defensive fast, accuses Eddie of thinking he's better than her, says he's trying to take Sam like he can buy him or something. Eddie stays calm, tells her that if this goes to court, the judge probably won't give Sam back to her. Not with the way she's been living. Shelley snaps. She screams that she'll change, that she'll quit all her bad habits for Sam. Then she slams the door and throws Eddie out. With no other option, Eddie turns to Maggie. He asks her for help, not just for him, but for Sam. And Maggie says yes. She agrees to go with him to court. At the hearing, Eddie stands before the judge and makes his case. The judge listens, says he can see that Eddie has changed, but he still needs stable housing. He still has to complete his probation. Tears start to well in Eddie's eyes. He says he doesn't want anything except to take care of Sam, because he knows exactly what it feels like to be left behind. But the judge shakes his head. Judge, my decision is that the boy will remain under the care of the state. He will be placed in a registered foster home until the mother is well enough to regain custody. Eddie, Your Honor, she's a drug addict. That ain't going to happen. Judge, but for now, I'm sorry. I have to deny your request for temporary custody. Just then, the courtroom doors swing open. Shelley bursts in, breathless, desperate. She begs the judge to give her back her son. Sam is a special boy, says he struggles to make friends and that he needs her, that only she can understand him. The judge looks at her for a long moment and agrees. He rules in Shelley's favor. Every day after that, Eddie hears the yelling through the walls. Shelley and Jerry, arguing again and again. And when Eddie realizes that she's slipping back in her old ways, he makes a bold decision. Eddie makes a choice, one that he knows could cost him everything. He takes Sam drives, far away from everything they know. No real plan, just a need to protect the boy. At a gas station along the way, Eddie uses the payphone to call Maggie. She answers, worried but honest. Shelley has reported him to the police. He's officially a fugitive now. Eddie looks down at Sam, then says quietly, everything's going to be okay. He promises. But in the end, Eddie knows what he has to do. He turns himself in. That choice, surrendering, says everything about how far he's come. It's not about giving up. It's about doing the right thing. Officer Coles, who finally understands what's really going on, steps in. He arranges for Sam to stay with Maggie for the time being. And then Eddie is arrested. As they lead him away in handcuffs, Sam runs after the police car, tears streaming down his face. He shouts at his mother, accusing her of never loving him. And Eddie, he fights to hold back his own tears as the car pulls away. Back in jail, Eddie sits alone again. That familiar, hollow feeling creeping in. But not for long. Coles comes back, this time with good news. Shelley changed her statement. She tells the police that she asked Eddie to take Sam to get food. And because of that, the charges are dropped. Eddie's free to go. With hope in his chest, Eddie heads straight to Maggie's place. Sam is there, safe, cared for. The relief is instant. Soon after, Shelley shows up too. But Sam doesn't say a word to her. His face is cold, distant. The hurt was too deep. Shelley sees it. She feels it. And in that moment, she understands what she has to do. Even though she truly loves her son, she knows she can't give him the life he deserves. So, with a trembling voice, she gives Eddie full custody. Mother and son share a quiet, painful goodbye. Tears fall. Words are few. But there's love there and also letting go. Now, finally, Eddie can become Sam's real father. Things begin to look up. Eddie's job is going well. He and Sam start preparing to leave Vivian's house and build something of their own. Then, one day, as they walk up the driveway, they find something in the mailbox. It's a letter from the Fairy Princess show. Sam's face lights up with pure joy. And just like that, they step into a brand new chapter of their lives as the story closes on a bittersweet but hopeful note.